Hello there, this is Ryan McReynolds, one of the Republican candidates for state rep in the 94th District. And well, anyways, yesterday an article was printed in the Saginaw News about the Republican candidates for state rep, and, well, I mean, it was published at least on MLive.com and all that, but anyways, I looked at it today and all that, and, well, the article was pretty good. They also forgot to mention about the fact that I'd also ran for township supervisor in 2010 as well, or what some people would call 2010, but anyways, even though I did get defeated in that primary 2 years ago, I did get at least 1/3 of the votes on that one, so, and that was, a very decent number right there when you think about it. Furthermore, there were some comments, that people had written on MLive.com, and one such individual referred to me as a Jerry Mathers leave-it-to-be real look-alike who just wants a job. Well, boom, yeah, of course I am wanting a job, but you know what? State rep is definitely not the only job I'm trying to get, because you know what? This summer already I handed in 14 job applications, so guess what? That means, I'm trying to get a job. I mean, granted, would state rep be a job in itself? Well, yeah, of course, but you know what? As I've said before, to a lot of people are out of work to begin with, and I'm one of them. And so if I am elected state rep, I can certainly represent, the people that are out of work. Because such people do need representation, and like I've also said before, I'm an individual with high-functioning autism, which some classify as a disability, so yeah, if I'm elected state rep, I can definitely represent the disabled as well. Well, anyways, okay, I'm done covering that part for a moment. I'm going to cover something called inspirational people. Okay? Well, good example, George Washington. Now, it is a known fact that George Washington happened to have dyslexia, which is itself classified as a disability. Some people actually speculated that he may have had my disability, autism. Well, considering that the term autism did not exist way back when, and considering you can't actually diagnose dead people, I can't really say for sure if that is really what George Washington had all along, But I will say this, he definitely had dealt with some learning type problems in his childhood, yet he turned out to be a very smart and brilliant man, and he risked a lot in his life. With leading the way in fighting against the tyrants who were ruling our nation when they were the 13 colonies at the time. He basically risked his life, his wealth, and basically risked death to stand for what he stood for, to get this nation freed from tyranny. In fact, loads of the founders of this nation risked their lives, their wealth, and their freedom. And loads of the men that signed the Declaration of Independence are great inspirations to me themselves, because, they weren't mere poor peasants, a lot of them were actually rich men. So why did they put up the risk that they put up if they were rich? Because they wanted freedom for everybody in this nation, regardless of how poor, middle class, or rich you were. It didn't matter to them how much money you had. if you were poor, middle class, or rich, they wanted everybody in this nation to have freedom, even if you were poor or middle class, you know. And they risked their lives. They even risked their wealth. Some of them did lose their wealth and get put into poverty as a result of their actions. Some of them got imprisoned. Some of them died. Some were cut off from their families. Some lost custody of their children. But not a single man who signed the Declaration of Independence ever backed down. Not one of them ever renounced their signing. Not one of them ever had regrets for signing the Declaration of Independence. They took that big of a risk for our nation to be free, and that is a great inspiration to me. Another inspiration is Abraham Lincoln. I mean, boom. This man, you know, he had worked to provide his dad income because back in those days, until you were 21 years old, anything you earned from working belonged not to you but to your father. But once he was 21, he was able to work for his own income himself. And he did so. And he had said, "My daddy taught me how to work, but he never taught me how to like it." And you know what else? Even after getting elected into legislative office, which I am running for, he still worked anyways, because you know what? Back then, legislatures were part-time, and so he ended up with a career as a lawyer. And he worked as that, especially when legislature was not in session. Either way, you know, he had worked hard in a lot of what he had done in his life, and he went on becoming president, and well, even though he had been against slavery, he originally was not interested in ending slavery. He was interested only in preserving the Union. But that changed after he met Frederick Douglass, a great black man who had escaped from slavery and had later on, you know, joined the Republican Party, which I belonged to, and Frederick Douglass eventually ended up in government-type positions in the Republican Party, including a diplomat to Haiti. And I believe he had even ran for president before, too, and all that, but anyways, Frederick Douglass is definitely another inspirational person. I mean, boom, here it is, you know, he managed to learn how to read and write, even though black slaves weren't supposed to be allowed to learn how to read and write, because, boom, if that happened, that would have proven that blacks could be just as intelligent as whites. And as it turned out, Frederick Douglass was a very intelligent man. And like I said, he's a very inspirational man because, boom, you know, he got involved in all sorts of political causes, including fighting to free people of his own race from slavery. So he's another inspirational man right there, you know, and some people would quote John F. Kennedy as being inspirational. And you know what? There is some truth in that, because John F. Kennedy had said, "Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country." And you know what? I will say right now, you know, is to people of District 94, ask not what this district will do for you. Ask what you can do for your district. And one of the things you can do is, of course, voting to nominate me in August and all that. I mean, it's your decision if you do that or not, but that's one of the things you can definitely do for your district. Not to mention, if I am elected, there's a whole lot I can definitely do for this district. And, you know, I rely on you, the citizens, to help me out with that. How? All you gotta do, you know, is give me some input on what needs to be done in this district. You need to tell me, you know, what kind of stuff do I need to do for this district in Lansing? Okay? Because, you know what, it's important for me to know exactly what the people of this district need done. I mean, I have some ideas of what some of the people in this district want, but I know I may not necessarily know everything that people in this district want, you know. I mean, there's some things that I can be certain of on what the people of the district want, but if there's anything you think I might have missed, or anything you think I don't know about, please tell me, so that I can, you know, be knowledgeable on this, because it really will help me if I am informed of what the people of District 94 want done, you know. I'd like to be informed of your opinions, your thoughts, your feelings. And that would really be of great inspiration to me too, you know. Okay, and another inspirational person I will cite is Temple Grandin, a woman on the autism spectrum whom, well, she dealt with all these frustrations and all that, but she noticed certain equipment that had helped calm down farm animals, and she applied that to eventually creating identical stuff that would work with autistic children and help develop certain kinds of equipment related to that, as well as developing new equipment that helps out with farm animals as well, you know. And I've even gotten to, you know, read up on and see some things on things that help calm down people with autism and all that, and I've even noticed things about how, you know, deep pressure and weighted blankets and all that are really helpful to people on the autism spectrum and all that. So, I mean, boom, there's like so many different types of cases of autism out there. And I mean, from what you can see with me, I'm in the high-functioning class, although there's definitely been, you know, different personalities with each autistic individual, and of course there are some on the spectrum that aren't as lucky as me to be able to run for office or even be as educated as I am on things, you know. Especially considering, you know, severities that exist with some autistic individuals, including ones that ended up unable to verbally communicate or had limited conceptual levels on things. And I definitely want to help those kind of people out just as much as I want to help out the ones that are high functioning like myself, who are, you know, seeking help with things, because there's loads out there that are seeking help with things. I mean, boom, you know, I'm okay in spite of, you know, still not having a job and all that and stuff, but I know there's others out there on the spectrum that are in need of some help that I would like to help, you know, and all that. Especially people on the spectrum that could be, you know, getting abused and all that, since unfortunately that can happen, you know. Okay, and well, let's see. Another person I cite as inspirational to an extent is, you might not remember this name, or maybe you might, but in 2004 there was a man who ran on the Democratic side of the primaries for governor of Michigan. His name, Lynn Johndale. And why would I be quoting him when I'm a Republican? Well, because of some words he had said in one of his campaign commercials. And it's really stuck with me ever since, you know. And the commercial was, it started out with somebody quoting, "Nah, he can't be governor." And then Lynn Johndale spoke himself and he said, "There's something that the insiders forgot that I have not forgot, and that is the people of Michigan will decide who is governor." And you know what, regardless of what your political party is, you have to admit, he was right about that one. I mean, in the end, in 1994, the voters of Michigan decided to re-elect John Engler. But still, Lynn Johndale was right on when he said, the people of Michigan will decide who is governor. I mean, he didn't say that the people would decide him. All he just said was the people of Michigan will decide who's governor. I mean, granted, yeah, he lost the primaries, but still, you can't deny he was right on about the words he said. You know, he was right on. He knew exactly what he was talking about, too, you know. And that, you know, inspires me because I feel that, you know, in the end, the people of District 94 are going to decide who is their state representative, regardless of whether or not it's me or Ian Doyle or Tim Kelly or Judith Lincoln. You know, the voters will in the end decide. And all that. Now, I can tell you furthermore about some stuff like inspirational stories again. And a good example is country singer Shania Twain. Now, I am mostly a rock and roll kind of person, although I have seen a few country acts in concert. I was even at, you know, the KCQ free music concert, as I won 2 free tickets for the preferred seating that you normally have to pay for and all that, and it was actually a good concert too. But Shania Twain, well, first of all, I'm distantly related to her through the French-Canadian Coultier family. Second of all, she dealt with the death of her mom and stepdad, whom, of course, her and her siblings had actually called Dad because their stepdad was the only dad they really knew. As far as they were concerned, that was their dad. But after dealing with that, you know, she helped take care of the siblings that were younger than her in spite of how young she was herself. And she had lived in poverty before becoming rich and famous and all that, and I'm like, that is major inspiring, you know, that, you know, somebody can deal with all this, you know, and rise above it. And I have another good example here. My dad. Why do I mention him? Well, let me put it this way. When my grandfather died, my dad was 16 years old at the time. And after that, my dad ended up getting a job to support himself and his mom. So my dad ended up paying the bills in the house when he was 16 years old. Did he quit school? Well, he was tempted to, but he didn't quit school. Granted, yeah, he ended up working, but he still also went to school, and he did end up graduating at the age of 17, since, you know, his 18th birthday was in summertime, so that meant, you know, getting to graduate before actually turning 18. although he didn't start going to college at 18 like a whole lot of people get to do, because he was working to support himself and his mom. I mean, he eventually did get to take college classes years later, but still, it's like, wow, you know? And it's no wonder I end up holding some of the ideals that I do hold today, such as when I go through people, you know, saying, why don't you ask your parents to help you out financially with this, that, and the other thing? And I'm like, let's play pretend the parents are dead, because when they are, what next, you know? Because what a lot of people don't think of is that, you know, your parents aren't going to be alive forever. I mean, all four of my grandparents are dead, so guess what? My mom and dad don't have mommy or daddy to run to, you know, and all that. They have to take care of themselves, and they do, and they've certainly trained me on how to take care of myself. I mean, they taught me from early on, you know, about how to be self-sufficient and all that, and it's no wonder, you know, that in my school years and all that, when people would, like, be trying to do crib grabs on me, like, for example, you know, when they would try to take a certain food item off me in school and all that, not even saying please and all that and stuff, it's no wonder I was like, why don't you buy your own, you know, because, I mean, and for me, this was not about being selfish. This was about, you know, taking care of things yourself instead of mooching off others, you know, because, boom, how is a person going to learn how to take care of themselves if they're allowed to get away with mooching off others like that, you know? Like, I also remember when there were others, you know, that would say they wanted to listen to my Walkman. First, you know, the portable tape player, and then later the portable CD player. Although I got my high school diploma before I ever had an iPod, though. And so far nobody's actually asked about listening to my iPod and all that, but I remember when people would ask to listen to my cassette Walkman, and then my CD Walkman and all that, and I was like, why don't you bring your own in? And all that stuff, because I was like, you know, and for example, when I was going post-secondary transitional program, there was one guy that wanted to listen to my Walkman, and I was like, you need to start bringing your own in, because I'm not going to be here forever for you to be able to have a chance to do this, and all that. And well, I was right, because I knew I'd graduate before he got a chance to do so himself, you know, and so what was he going to do after I graduated, you know? I mean, the max graduation age at post-secondary transitional program is 26, but you can graduate earlier than that if, you know, they determine you've achieved certain goals. So I actually ended up getting to graduate from there at the age of 21 instead of waiting until 26 like some of the students who had to wait that long, you know. In fact, when I graduated at the age of 21, there was one girl who graduated at age 22, and then I'm trying to think of some of the other graduation ages that went about for some of the individuals. I mean, yeah, there were some that were 26 when they graduated with me, but there were at the same time some that were definitely younger than 26, like myself being 21 at that time and all that, but anyways, and that brings me to something else too. Well, before I went to post-secondary transitional program, I had gone part-time to Millett Learning Center, the full name Melvin G. Millett Learning Center. And what I mean by having gone there part-time is, well, from 6th to 8th, I started going to Marshall Wayne Middle School in 5th grade, after moving up into the school district and all that. But in 6th grade, I started going to Millett Learning Center part-time, and what that meant was I went to Marshall Green Middle School in the morning and Millett in the afternoon, and then after I started high school, I was still going to Millett in the afternoon, but now I was at the high school in the morning and all that. And it was like that every day, unless Millett had a half day or no school. And if Millett had a half day or no school, then that day was a half day for me, because then one of my parents ended up picking me up when it would have been time for me to get on the bus to go to Millett to take me home or take me out around town, different places and all that and stuff. Although originally, if it was half day in Birch Run, I did not get to go home early if Millett was also in session that day, whereas if Millett did also have coincidentally half day at the same time Birch Run did, then I ended up going home and all that. Although my last year of attending Birch Run High School, I did end up actually going home on the half days at Birch Run. And there was that one day when I was half day at middle school that I ended up actually going home in spite of Millett being in session, only because I hadn't seen the Millett bus yet, and me and another guy that were going to Millett in the afternoon talked to the assistant principal and all that to see what we should do, because I was like, well, I'll see what we should do and go along with what he says. Then if he says wait for the Millett bus, then I do it. But if he says get on the Birch Run bus to go home, I'll do it. And he said get on the Birch Run bus to go home instead, and I said okay. And so I did, and I remember that day my mom said, what are you doing home? And I explained, I of course explained the whole story and all that, and she was like, okay. And during my years at Millett Learning Center, well, first 2 years I was in a pre-vocational room, which was preparation for the work experience program, and then in the last 4 years at Millett Learning Center, I actually got to go to the different job sites and all that, learning all these different job skills and stuff, so, I'm actually skilled at numerous different jobs and all that. Which leads me to wonder, why so many places that I've applied at have still not bothered to actually hire me, and I have numerous different job skills, and I've even, worked paid job in retail for many years, so I've got experience in retail itself, So, I actually have skills, even though I don't have a degree. And now in mentioning Millett Learning Center, that leads me to another bit of inspiration. Well, at the time I was going to Millett Learning Center, the guy in charge had nowadays the person in charge is called the principal, but back when I went there, the person in charge was called the director. And the director at the time was James Royal, also called Jim Royal for short. Now, he got hired in 1978 to be the director of Millett Learning Center, even though it didn't open until 79, so that was when he really got to start on the job then, and he was the director there from 1979 to 1999, when he went into a teaching position at Saginaw Valley State University. But I remember, later on reading some newspaper articles about him too, which included, among other things, that basically there had been, banks that offered to install ATM machines inside the school so that the students with the disabilities could access ATM at school, but Mr. Royal was like, no need, because I think they should learn how to access the ATMs that, I think they should learn about banking and how to access the ATMs by going to the actual banks themselves. And quite frankly, you know what, I actually, go to the bank myself if I want to get cash out, or I can even do that for the cash back in the stores when I use the debit card if I want to get cash back and all that, So, I mean, yeah, back then I didn't need to actually go to an ATM in school at all to get cash out, although I think I probably had done that at least once or twice at Delta College when I needed cash because they had an ATM machine there, but no, the thing of it was, Mr. Royal wanted us to learn how to do the banking like everybody else instead of, doing it just at school itself, because how are we going to learn if it was just done at school itself, instead of being taught how to do it directly at the bank. In fact, I remember one of my uncles, when he was married to his third wife, who had 3 kids from prior marriage, the youngest with muscular dystrophy. Well, he had gone to the bank when his stepson was in the van to get money out, and his stepson was like, wow, this is cool, you can get money out of there like that. And my uncle said, well, it's not really that simple, because you have to have money in there before you can actually take money out of there. But his stepson did end up getting an ATM card and actually, learned about how the banking system works with the ATM card, so that he knows that, A, if you want to get money out, you've already got to have money in the account first. So, I mean, he basically got to learn about that, which I think was pretty cool. I mean, his verbal ability was limited, but he did learn, of course, how to handle his own money. In fact, he even paid for his computer with money that he had saved up as well. And when I was told about that, I was like, that's very awesome, that he was able to do that. And I know he also, used a touch talker because of limited verbal ability and all that, but he also got taught that to shake his head for yes, and like this for no. So if you were communicating with him, it was best to ask a yes, no question and all that. I remember I saw a picture of him with Willie Nelson, and years later I would get to meet famous people myself and get photographed with famous people too, and get asked similar questions and all that, if this was this or that famous person. But no, I remember asking him, is that Willie Nelson? And he went, which meant yes. And I said, you got to meet Willie Nelson? And he went, yeah. Something like that. He was basically shaking the head, to say yes. And so, while the way that I was able to communicate with him was a bit limited, it was still amazing, the way I was able to communicate with him and all that by asking a yes, no question and all that. And I remember when people in the family were, talking about some funny stuff that happened in the family, and seeing the way they laugh about the funny stuff, because even he had thought it was funny and all that, and I could see him laughing too about the funny stuff that was being discussed, because it showed that he understood how funny the funny stuff was. And all that, and yeah, And, I mean, I don't know if he's actually even still alive or not, because, I mean, this was a long time ago, but I'd known who he was and all that, but, of course, I remember, you know, my uncle had told me that his stepson would, of course, eventually die, so now I don't know if his stepson is still alive or has since passed on or not. I haven't been informed of anything about that one at all or anything like that. But still, you know, I can say that an inspirational story comes in right there, you know. In fact, I also remember getting to watch this one program from Alan Alda, who was on MASH, called Growing Up Different, that went over some stuff about people with different disabilities, including a woman with cerebral palsy who had these limitations on her and all that, but she managed to, you know, partake in things like swimming in the pool and all that, even though she needed assistance, and because of limitations like being in a wheelchair and movement limitations and all that, there was like this board that her mom, who later died, and others in the family, such as her sister, had to like hold on to be able to figure out what this girl was saying. But there was an effort made to help her be able to have an independent voice without anybody like her mom trying to censor anything out. But her mom unfortunately died before the equipment was finally developed, but eventually this girl was given some sort of computerized type device where she got a dot put on her head and could aim it towards a certain letter, so then she'd be able to type out words that she wanted to say. And I thought, you know, that was really neat, you know. And that's a bit of an inspiration right there. And, well, if you ever have a chance to actually find this Growing Up episode, well, I mean, I actually do have a copy on DVD, so if you ever want to contact me for a copy, I'm happy to give you a copy. But if you want to try to find it yourself, you know, go right ahead. And it's something that's actually good to watch, you know. And even the topic of autism gets covered on Growing Up Different too, even though unfortunately it didn't really cover the high functioning cases per saying all that, or I could say it didn't cover the high functioning adults and all that, you know. And of course, I mean, it seems like there's a whole lot of autism related specials that really haven't bothered to do that. But, you know, hey, if anybody would like to contact me to be on some kind of special like this, you know, hey, I'm right there. I can, you know, contribute and all that, you know. Well, anyways, thanks for watching, and God bless.